Welcome to Critical Junction, episode 61. I'm Mark.
And I'm not Luke.
That's right, Luke is on assignment in Azerbaijan. And earlier this week, Ontario firefighter Adam Knopf filed a complaint with the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario against his employer, the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, alleging his human rights were violated when he was not provided with sufficient vegan food while fighting a major forest fire in BC in 2017. According to Knopf, quote, "The Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry discriminated against me and failed to accommodate my sincerely held ethical beliefs, or creed, when it failed to provide me with food that accommodated my personal commitment to ethical veganism, and then disciplined me and suspended me because I attempted to assert my right to accommodation of that sincerely held ethical belief," end quote. At issue here is whether quote-unquote ethical veganism, or Knopf's self-described philosophy of non-consumption of animal products in all areas of his life, due to his belief that humans do not have the moral right to oppress other beings or cause them pain and suffering, constitutes a creed. Complicating matters is the fact that the Ontario Human Rights Code does not actually define what constitutes a creed. However, the courts and tribunals often refer to religious beliefs and practices. According to the Ontario Human Rights Commission, quote, "Creed may also include non-religious belief systems that, like religion, substantially influence a person's identity, worldview, and way of life. People who follow a creed and people who do not have the right to live in a society that respects pluralism and human rights and the right to follow different creeds," end quote. The Commission goes on to list several characteristics they consider relevant when considering if a belief system is a creed under the Code, noting a creed is sincerely, freely, and deeply held, is integrally linked to a person's identity, self-definition, and fulfillment, is a particular and comprehensive, overarching system of belief that governs one's conduct and practices, addresses ultimate questions of human existence, including ideas about life, purpose, death, and the existence or non-existence of a creator and or higher or different order of existence, and has some nexus or connection to an organization or community that professes a shared system of belief. I would argue that Knopf's philosophy of ethical veganism meets many of these criteria in order to be considered a creed, and if this is indeed the case, the courts may find his human rights were indeed violated when the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry failed to accommodate his beliefs by not providing him with sufficient vegan options. So, does veganism constitute a creed, and do vegans actually hold a moral high ground as many of them are quick to assert? Are they justified in trying to spread their beliefs in order to foster a more sustainable food source in an increasingly unsustainable world? Or are they, like religionists, trying to force their beliefs down everyone else's throats? Let's talk about that, shall we?
Like religionists, trying to force down throats. Calling all those criteria that you were talking about, a lot of them are very subjective, and I don't know how exactly those play out in a legalistic context where one side has to prove whether or not those conditions are fulfilled. Do you have any idea?
Well, that's the problem. Like, there's no solid definition in the code about what a creed is. Like, these are just a bunch of different criteria that they consider whenever they're evaluating whether something is to be classified as a creed. So without that solid definition, without any solid guidelines, like you said, it's really subjective, right?
Yeah.
So that will be the main contention in this particular case. Is it a creed or is it a lifestyle choice? Like, a lot of people that I've talked to about this in the couple of days since I found the article would argue that it's just a lifestyle choice, right? He's choosing to...
What's the difference between a creed and a lifestyle choice?
Well, exactly, right? There's so much overlap between those two ideas.
Like that, it sounds that actually sounds like sort of arbitrary kind of labeling that one side would use to denigrate the other, or someone of one creed would use to sort of discount the validity of another person's creed.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
I have a feeling that's going to come up a lot during this debate, right? Well, That's just a lifestyle choice. Who are you to say that? It's a creed, and they're just going to go back and forth without a solid definition on behalf of the Commission. It's going to be a battle of who can argue their case better.
And that's lame and and annoying.
Yeah,
that's like institutionalized sophistry.
Exactly. Right? And if it is a creed, then the province is mandated by the Ontario Human Rights Commission to actually follow through, right? Like they are legally obligated to provide him with, in this case, vegan options. If it's
Okay. So this kind of leads into another thought I had about this, which was, okay, so you've got the whole issue of accommodations and stuff for religious followers, but just before you even get to that whole argument or subject, there's just the idea that that a chosen lifestyle choice or a chosen creed, these are sort of voluntary things that we take on for ourselves, right? And we choose to follow certain concepts related to them, or actions or rituals or whatever, because we think in general it's a net positive in our life. So in this particular situation where the guy was way out in the field in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, Alberta, was it, fighting fires? BC?
Yeah.
So he's way out in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. There's no like businesses or towns around where they're actually working. I think the closest thing was Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
And nevertheless, the company actually did bring in some vegetarian options for this guy, or vegan options, and they just weren't good enough for him because whoever was, like, there was a barbecue at one point, and because I guess the vegan patties were on the same grill as the regular barbecue meats, that was a problem, and the guy was absolutely unwilling to compromise and say, I'm gonna go hungry rather than actually give in.
Right. Just because
but it's not like an allergy or something. Like, this is really just him being unreasonable about his chosen principle.
Right. And the question is, did his employer make a reasonable effort to accommodate him? By providing him with...
To me, it sounded like they did.
Yeah, exactly. By providing him with certain options, like you said, like the vegan patties or whatever for the barbecue, they've showed that they made reasonable effort to accommodate him.
Yeah.
So therefore, one can counter-argue that his rights were not violated, right? Mm-hmm. And the fact that they made that effort, and that he just rejected it by saying, well, it touched the same grill as the meat.
Or we don't even know whether that's exactly what it was. Maybe the guy used the same tongs or something.
It was something along those lines. It's in the story.
He said something about cross-contamination.
Yeah. So. But the fact is, they made reasonable effort. And considering the remote location that they were in, reasonable effort, has a very fine line. Like, there's only so much you can do to accommodate someone.
Right. Or rather should be interpreted super broadly.
Exactly. Yeah. Because there's only so much you can do within a limited circumstance like this.
Yeah, when you're in the middle of buttfuck nowhere.
He's in a forest.
Is that actually super inappropriate to say buttfuck nowhere?
I'll allow it. But yeah, like... They're in the middle of a forest.
I know when I'm in the middle of nowhere, I like to get butt fucking. So.
Usually by a Yeti. Yeah, they smell like burnt cheese and diapers.
Oh, are you speaking from experience? Have you encountered a Yeti, Mark? Do you have a Yeti story?
I can neither confirm nor deny the existence of the Yeti.
So what was that? Burnt cheese and...
and diapers? Allegedly.
Burnt cheese and diapers. Okay.
But yeah, you have to consider that you're in a forest, right? I mean, how much can you demand at that point?
Yeah.
You're fighting a fire in the middle of, like you said, buttfuck nowhere. Are they going to airdrop more options for you?
Yeah.
I get that to a certain degree. Sure, there should be effort made to accommodate somebody's vegan choices or whatever, but be reasonable about it. Like
Yeah.
if you're in a life and death situation, I don't know if this was, but if you're in a situation that's limiting the amount of options that you can receive, you need to be a little bit more flexible, right? You can't just dismiss the options you're provided because it happened to be you know, cross-contaminated or whatever, right?
It's like with like Jewish dietary restrictions or even Muslim ones. I'm aware that there's like sort of dispensation or allowances for either if you have no real way of knowing whether or not one of those forbidden foods is actually in what's being served to you or something like that. Like if shellfish happens to be an ingredient, but you don't know it, you're not committing a sin by eating something that you don't really have an expectation of there being the forbidden stuff in it. You know what I mean? Oh
my god, I think we just found an example of theists being reasonable.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. So it strikes me as kind of specious for him to not even be as quote unquote reasonable as a religious like Jew or Muslim person.
Right. Like if,
like how can you not be?
If their God can forgive that kind of transgression, why can't he forgive himself?
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. It seems very unreasonable to me in this particular case.
Yeah.
But so luckily we were able to find this article a couple of days before we recorded this episode, which is very fortuitous.
Yeah.
But speaking more broadly, what do you think about the question I raised during the introduction? Like, do they actually have the moral high ground?
Vegans in general?
When it comes to this particular issue about the well-being of animals and other conscious creatures. By choosing to not cause them suffering.
Yeah. So I'm definitely I'm a meat eater and I really like meat. I love chicken. Like I love chicken. So I want to say no, but there's a not insignificant part of me that says, yeah, they're totally right on the ball, and any minute now I'm going to start being a vegan. As soon as I have time.
When I get around to it.
As soon as I get around to it, I'm going to start being vegetarian or vegan.
See, I'm more or less in the same kind of boat. Like I've sat down and thought about this topic on a couple of past occasions, not just in preparation for the episode, but like I question whether or not I'm acting morally when I'm consuming meat, because I happen to really enjoy meat. Like I had a steak last night because I felt like having one. I ate them rare because it tastes better.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the only actual defense I have for engaging in what could be considered an immoral act is that I'm a speciesist.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I care more about the survival of the human species than I do about other animals. Right.
The philosopher Peter Singer is the guy that kind of first really fleshed out that concept of being a speciesist.
Oh, cool.
I think.
Huh.
Yeah.
I've heard Matt Dillahunty mention the same kind of lines of reasoning.
Yeah.
But it's like, really, that's what it comes down to. I'm a speciesist. And I am potentially engaged in an immoral act by consuming the flesh of other animals. Right? Yeah. I can't argue my way around that other than evoking the speciesist argument.
And on some level, we're part of the ecosystem, right? We're animals just like any other that evolved within a food chain, and our current state only exists because of how we fed ourselves and everything throughout history.
But the counter to that would be that now that we're able to develop means of nutrition that doesn't involve killing other animals, then we should, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to hold to the moral argument.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like I said, I'm probably...
Well, no, because then you might be falling into an is-ought fallacy, right?
Potentially.
Like, just because it is the case that we can, does that actually entail an ought, technically?
On the surface, hard to say, but if you put it into context in this given situation, then you can probably derive an ought from the is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, we do have the capacity to develop let's say, invasive means of feeding ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? So, given the context of morality and given the context of suffering and cruelty and all that other stuff that goes into the production of meat-based products,
yeah,
then we probably should embrace those other technologies.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're following just a basic utilitarian kind of ethics, where the whole goal is to reduce harm and increase utility, well-being, happiness for yourself, without, again, doing harm to others, like Mill's harm principle and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, I mean, if an animal is capable of feeling harm, and we know they do at this point, then yeah, it's pretty much objectively wrong to be doing them harm, just to satisfy our kind of shallow happiness needs or wants.
What do you think of the excuse that some people give for rejecting veganism based on like raising animals ethically or that kind of thing?
Rejecting veganism, based on raising animals ethically. Yeah,
like let's say free range chickens or whatever. Like I don't want to be vegan because I only eat free range or that kind of thing.
Right. Like, so if we like treat chickens like the Soylent Green old people, where we make things really fun, happy for them,
and then kill them and eat
we show them like a really cool movie before they die.
Yeah. Like, is that like some kind of vacuous excuse, or does that hold weight?
No, it feels like a technically kind of type thought experiment kind of thing, where it comes down to what you know about the situation rather than what the person that you're kind of making, or not the person, but the other entity, the other sentient being that you're making use of has. Like if we can engineer it so that they're none the wiser about their fate and they don't feel any pain when we kill them, you might argue that there's no ethical problem there, unless then you go on the more Kantian side of ethics, where it's about like, never using another being as a means to an end, kind of thing.
That's an interesting point. Like, if we were to, let's say, using CRISPR technology or whatever, to engineer a chicken to not feel pain and not suffer when we kill it to feed off it, right? Yeah. Would that then be a moral action, like, or an amoral action? Like, if you interpret morality again as being, the evaluation of actions and consequences with regard to the well-being of conscious creatures, if you maximize its well-being prior to killing it, having engineered it to not feel pain and suffering, would the action of killing and eating it still be immoral?
I suppose it could, just on the level of it having its own sort of self-determination, or insofar as an animal like that has self-determination, you're cutting that short, regardless of whether it has a sense of, at least, of self-preservation at the very least, or a sense of wanting to continue that.
You can also make the counter argument that the act of engineering it for that specific purpose is also immoral.
Right.
Like, robbing it of that faculty.
What about engineering, sort of engineering a headless chicken? Basically, like, just growing everything that makes a chicken delicious, but just not the brain that gives it the nervous system to be able to either have needs or wants or pleasure or pain.
Well, see, I think that's where the lab-grown meat debate comes into play. Like, I'm all for it. Like, I have no problem eating lab-grown meat, like it's grown from stem cells or whatever, and it turns into a steak. Cool. You know, welcome to the future.
Yeah.
I would have no problem eating that because it never was an animal. You know, it's just meat at that point.
Yeah.
Do you think that kind of argument could sway vegans back to meat eating? Because if their entire objection to eating meat is to avoid the suffering of other creatures, this slab of meat that was never a creature to begin with, would they then eat it?
Yeah. So I guess it depends on how creedy those how creedy those vegans are. If they're as stubborn as this guy, I doubt very much that that's a convincing argument.
Right.
As stubborn as the guy in the article that we were talking about. But if they're at all pragmatists and some of their argumentation or motives for being vegans lies outside just that whole animal ethics argument, there's probably a ton more reasons that are perfectly valid for why they don't want why they don't think it's right to be eating meat.
So, like, specifically dietary type restrictions or whatever, like if they can't digest the proteins in meat or whatever.
Yeah. Like I watched a few. I've watched a few documentaries about food and vegetarianism or the meat industry. A long time ago, I saw that Food Inc. Documentary, which was about like
It's been a
big
long time
agriculture.
since I've seen that one.
There's a couple others that are on Netflix now. There's one called Cowspiracy.
Oh, right. Yeah, I've been meaning to check that one out.
Yeah, and there's another one. I can't remember the name of the other one. But the Cowspiracy and the other documentary I saw is actually about the same guys that made Cowspiracy. So Cowspiracy is from like 2014 or something like that, and the other one is much more recent. But they kind of more focus on the ethics of the industry itself, of the meat industry, or the health industry and its relationship to the agricultural industry. And animal agricultural industry, and so they tie in a lot of issues such as the fact that meat eating actually has links to diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and these are all things that are sort of downplayed and kind of swept under the rug by even government agencies that are meant to be like the regulators of the industry, right? It's all incestuous, this whole thing. Like the lobbyists of the big agricultural corporations are totally buying off all of the politicians. So you've got bodies like the big sort of the big diabetes. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a big sort of diabetes advocacy. Big diabetes. There's an diabetes advocacy organization,
right?
That doesn't even want, at least in the documentary, the guy shows that they don't even want to talk about the link between nutrition and diabetes or diet and diabetes.
So they're all about
because things get controversial there, and they might who knows, they just wouldn't go there.
Huh.
It looks like the link between these health problems. So one example that they kept bringing up was that actually the processed meats are classified as much of a carcinogen as cigarettes and plutonium.
Plutonium?
So
Has that been validated? Like, is that?
I'm not sure. That's what's reported in these documentaries. The documentaries, I have to say though, they're sort of like Michael Moore documentaries, but without the sense of humor.
Okay.
You know, so it's definitely super biasy, and and it's all it's mostly done by this one San Francisco guy that has a man bun that he hides under his hat to try and look less man bunny.
You're in the dangerous ad hominem waters there.
Yeah. So no, but I'm just to tell you.
I don't get it.
The tone of it.
Right.
So, yeah, this is stuff that affects at least the perception of credibility of these documentaries. But some of the information in there is good. They mentioned that 80% of all antibiotics produced by the pharmaceutical industry go towards the animal agriculture industry.
I have heard that.
Only 20% of antibiotics go to humans.
Yeah, and like
that's fucked.
There's also that
That's
argument
weird.
that, you know, all the antibiotics going into agriculture is, you know, affecting our ability to use antibiotics for our purposes, right? Because we're building up an immunity with every piece of meat that we eat, right?
Yeah.
Antibiotics are becoming less and less effective because of that.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Oh yeah, antibiotic resistance is that's not controversial. It's,
yeah.
Yeah. It's known.
Yeah. So that's kind of frightening when you think about it. Like, and the fact that 80% of them go towards the agriculture.
And the animals are the animals in the industry. The livestock, they're just pumped with all of these drugs. Like
right.
you can see the lists of different antibiotics and.
They're not treated well at all. I'll be the first to admit that. Like,
I mean, I don't know if it's really about whether they're treated badly or not. Like in terms of the animal's own well-being or whatever. I mean, maybe it's great that it gets vaccinated and pumped with all these drugs that make sure it doesn't get sick or whatever. Maybe that's great for the animal itself, and if it weren't livestock, that might actually help it live super long life. But the fact is, those animals are actually there for us to consume, and so we are actually consuming what's pumped into it. You know, so.
To a certain degree, at least. The drugs that aren't completely absorbed and dispersed into its system, the stuff that remains, essentially, is what we're consuming.
Yeah.
And I don't fucking know what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't. So this whole free range thing tends to become a little bit more attractive in that case.
But but also you've got so like things like H1N1, the swine flu, like that springs directly out of the pork industry, right?
Yeah.
It's not from like some wild boar out in the forest that infected a bird that then or something, or infected a forest ranger.
Contagion, I think that's what movie we're referring to. That was a good movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we're directly responsible for that in a way. Right?
Yeah.
Like, in a way, we are directly responsible for that, for all the shit that we've been doing to these animals. So, like the vegan argument is a strong one. Mm-hmm. From a moral perspective, from an ethical perspective, from just simply a sustainability perspective, right? Yeah,
so that's the other thing. So you've got the potentially very negative health effects for human populations of the meat industry, but you've also got like this whole conspiracy aspect, right, where these industries are kind of buying off the whole legal or government structure that's supposed to be serving the public's needs, right? But they're not. They're serving the corporations' needs.
The regulatory industries and all that.
I mean, the other like shocking fact I heard is, you know stents to open up your arteries and veins and stuff. That's a $5 billion industry. Just stents. The stent industry.
5 billion?
Yeah. And they're apparently one of the things that are kind of I guess causing or contributing to the conspiracy. The sun's getting right in your eyes there. They're contributing to this whole kind of machine that's about like sort of underplaying the health issues related to eating meat and the
I see what you're saying.
and the meat industry.
Right.
So you've got this kind of political ethics or economic ethics angle, and then you've also got the animal ethics angle, the animal rights ethics angle, and then you've just got the regular health angle of
right.
eating meat too.
It's such
but then, as you were just about to get to, is the environmental
right.
impact.
Yeah.
Of the meat industry.
Like, it's such a multifaceted problem when you think about it, right? Like all these different interconnected industries and just everything about it, right?
Yeah.
Like you were mentioning, it's.
But I think it's because it's so like interwoven into like everything we know, like into the very fabric of our society, that I think I have not kind of really made any effort to not be a meat eater.
Right. Well, that's just it. Like, from such an early age, we're taught that we have to have a balanced diet that consists of meat.
We used to have the 4 food groups.
Yeah, to serve protein requirements, and then dairy so that we can get calcium and all that. Like, it's built in. It was built into the Canada Food Guide forever, right?
Yeah.
Like the 4 food groups they were just mentioning.
Yeah.
We're taught this from an early age. So, of course, people aren't going to immediately question it because this is how they were brought up. Well, I've always eaten meat because I was told I have to, right? Why would I question that? Why would I question what the government is telling us? But, again, the vegan argument is a compelling one when you start to think about all these different interconnected spokes in the wheel.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, would I consider going vegan? Maybe. Do I have the fortitude to sit down and think about all the different ways I can replace what I'd be losing? Probably not. Like, a vegan diet could be expensive in certain situations, right? All these replacements and vitamin supplements that you'd have to suddenly start buying. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's less and less the case. Like, it's funny, vegan options seem to just by sheer force of like the subculture movements and social media and stuff that makes like I don't know, vegetarianism and veganism just more exposed, right? And so more kids growing up, they see that as normal. It's not and it's not a weird thing. So you've got like big industry now that's just offering vegan options, like A&W that has their Beyond Meat burgers. They have Beyond Meat breakfast sausages too for like.
And the Impossible Burger to go along with it. Like
that's at Burger King.
Yeah.
Like
it has become normalized.
And they're the same price as the other items on the menu. So
yeah, it's become normalized. Veganism is now seen as a normal, either creed or lifestyle choice, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah,
it's all over current culture. But what bothers me, though, as with anything, is the pushy, in-your-face, I'm going to shove it down your throat vegans.
Yeah.
They bother me on the same level that theists bother me in that regard. Right?
Yeah, it all comes down to ego and hubris, right? Like, it's the self-righteousness where, okay, you have found a sound argument to say, yes, this is probably the better choice. But it's when the leap is made from there to be either unreasonable about what's offered to you in sort of extenuating circumstances, like a forest fire in the middle of nowhere, or like the judgmentalism, you know, like
yes,
the judginess about you know, if you are actually sort of putting yourself on a path where maybe you want to cut down on meat, or like me and me and my wife are trying to reduce our waste to because of the example of somebody who was zero waste,
right?
And so we've reduced a lot of our waste, but we're definitely nowhere near zero waste, and we still buy some stuff that has packaging and
sure,
and stuff like that. And because of this new kind of this new lifestyle choice, as you put it, like I was looking up the zero waste subreddit, and they have posts there where it's clear there's at least a part of the community that wants to say it's either 100% or nothing, and if you're taking half measures or something like that, then you're almost worse than the people who haven't embarked on the path to going zero waste at all.
See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's that self-righteous, pushy kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Like, people should be rewarding others who are making a concerted effort to either engage in that lifestyle. Cheers. To engage in that lifestyle, or
Not me.
try to get there. Yeah, I think it comes down to, like you said, ego and hubris, right? People have found a path that they find fulfilling, and that serves their this cycle of self-fulfillment and self-aggrandizement, and it serves the reward center of the brain, because hey, look how great I am by doing this.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that's only worse in the social media world with Instagram and
this instant gratification kind of self-fulfilling
and Reddit and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. YouTubers especially, right? Think how many likes can I get? Make sure you like and subscribe. By the way, make sure you like and subscribe to our videos to help us fulfill our own egos.
Yeah, we haven't really
plugged that in a
we
long
haven't
time.
done that whole like and subscribe thing that
I think we've done it once.
Did we? Yeah.
Way back.
Like it's like a hard rule for most other YouTube videos I see, where at the end it's like almost there's a set script that you're supposed to see. But be sure to like and subscribe and.
But we're iconoclasts, so we don't care about that shit.
Oh right, I forgot about our iconoclasm.
But yeah, like it's a lot of it, especially for the pushy ones, it comes down to an ego thing. Look how great I am. Look how awful you are. You know, by engaging in these activities, you're lesser of a human being than I am. How dare you contribute to the cruelty and abandonment and torture of all these poor innocent animals? And then you get into the whole PETA debate, right? Are they like?
Right.
Oh, Jesus Christ! We did a whole episode about PETA, so I'm not gonna rehash that one.
Yeah. When did we do that one? That was
a while ago.
That was a while ago. Yeah.
But like I applaud vegans for taking that stand. Like, good for you. You've made a compelling argument. I am convinced by it.
Yeah. But when did it become okay to not be reasonable?
Exactly. Like, what?
When was it attractive to be a dick about it?
Right.
When did that start happening?
But I think that dickishness kind of exists in every kind of movement. Like, you have the dickish atheists, for example.
Yeah.
You know? Just in every group, every subculture, there will always be those who go to the extremes to be a dick about what they believe in, right? Because they've found this thing that they identify with so strongly that they have to kind of shout it out and draw more attention to it, right? And we see that a lot in the veganism community, right? We have a lot of self-righteous vegans. That's not beyond reasonable. Like, that's not beyond reason.
It's like being invited to a dinner and refusing to eat if anybody else is eating meat,
right?
Or something.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Like, there's a time and a place. Good for you for taking a stand, but there's a time and a place to do so.
Yeah.
Right? Going to your friend's barbecue and like shouting it down and protesting it, probably not the best avenue for that to happen. Right?
Yeah.
Go to an actual organized protest if you're that into it. But if you're invited to someone's house and they don't have as many vegan options as you would like, Mr. Firefighter, try to be a little bit more respectful, because not everyone has reached that point where they're willing to embrace the lifestyle that you have.
Yeah.
I should have saved that for my final thought.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you think, or what do you know about the environmental aspect to the meat industry?
Well, there's the whole runoff thing,
right?
When you have a livestock enclosure or whatever, all of this, for lack of a better word, shit has to go somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It ends up in the water stream, and it ends up out in the rivers or whatever, and there's very little control over that. And that's what.
And that can actually contaminate like actual water supplies.
Yeah, it has. In the past.
I think North Carolina was a place that was talked about in one of these documentaries I watched, where it's gotten really bad. The pork industry there has the pollution from the runoff that you're talking about, is just kind of out of control.
But beyond that, is it actually more environmentally sustainable to grow large non-meat farms than it is to grow livestock?
So that's a question I had, actually. I wonder if it's just a fact of industrialism,
Right.
Like,
and agriculture in general.
Like, maybe if it happens that there's sort of a widespread movement for people to just start kind of maintaining their own personal gardens again.
Right.
Stuff like we used to do a long time ago.
Yeah, rather than going out and creating giant farms for that purpose.
Yeah. Like one thing that we started doing this year is, those green onions? So these things, if you just like stick them in a glass of water, they just kind of regenerate perpetually forever.
Yeah.
So you don't really have to buy a pack of green onions every month or whatever, how often you use these to cook with. You just get one, and then you just rip off the tips of these and put some on your eggs or whatever in the morning, and
then replant it.
Well, you don't even replant it. You just leave it sitting there in the glass of water on your windowsill.
That's what I mean.
It just keeps going forever.
Yeah, it's
like,
super
it's
cool.
Crazy.
It's super cool. And
so
you can do the same thing with carrots, I think.
With carrots, really?
I could be mistaken.
Okay.
I think I'm wrong. Never mind.
Okay.
But yeah,
maybe lettuce. I don't know.
Maybe. It's one of those other plants that you can, like, the green onion isn't the only one that you can do it with.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I'm ultimately getting at.
Right.
But yeah, like, if we just embrace that kind of thing, rather than relying on grocery stores or mass-produced produce or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you said, go back to self-farming in a way.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live, right?
I mean, I know that food waste is huge,
right.
even with the vegetable component of it.
Yeah.
Like the amount of fruits and vegetables that grocery stores throw out just because they go bad before anyone buys any of it.
Exactly. But getting back crazy. To the personal garden thing, one of the main barriers to that is the just population density. And growing.
Not everybody has a backyard.
Yeah, exactly. Building upwards instead of horizontally.
Yeah.
Right? There's no room for you to have a garden if you're living in a high-rise apartment building.
Mm-hmm.
You can only grow a certain amount of things. Like you can maybe create a little tomato planter on your balcony or whatever, but you're not going to be able to have as many crops as you would if you had a backyard.
Yeah.
And that would be one of the counter arguments to doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So what ultimately is the solution?
Well, one thing that's cool is in Poland they have like community gardens.
Right. Yeah. There's one just around the corner here.
Okay.
Like down the street. There's
so like you can have like individual plots for certain people that have like whatever stuff that they specifically want, and it's a certain size. I don't know, like maybe 2 meters by 3 meters or something like that, and they've got like this little enclosure, but you've got like just this area that's fenced in, and it's just a big bunch of little gardens,
right?
You know, so that's kind of cool, and that gets around that whole issue of.
But I don't know if this is going to be a slippery slope argument, but with an increase in population, how long can you sustain that kind of project, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the more people live, the more you'll have to increase the size of the community garden if everyone wants to contribute and take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you find that balance between the amount of people living in a given community or whatever and the size of the garden that can accommodate them?
Yeah.
Without going back to giant farms.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, I wonder if there's different ways of farming or of growing fruits and vegetables. Like the amount of space that those things take up, like the land that takes up.
Yeah.
You know, and that just kills biodiversity and stuff for entire ecosystems.
Exactly.
Too. That's another
and there's only
big thing. But like there's like hydroponic systems and stuff that I've seen where you have these sort of rotating kind of shelving systems where you've got like rows upon rows, but they're all stacked like 2 stories high. You know, and it's just like a bunch of lettuce growing out of a watery trough.
Right. Yeah, I've seen those.
And they're just like on a giant kind of rack that just rotates to catch light for a certain amount of time, and so this is stuff that where you're basically stacking a bunch of gardens on top of each other, and you could just have like a big building.
Right.
That is producing producing fruits and vegetables in a way that takes up, you know, only a fraction of the actual environment around it. You know what I mean?
Like in the case of a high-rise apartment building, you can dedicate a certain amount of floors to just being hydroponic gardens. You know, and you can feed the entire building with that produce that you create.
Right.
You know, that would be a solution to it. But then again, it would take
buy-in from a lot of different agents,
right?
Like from architects, from clients
it would take a lot of
that are having a building built, maybe from municipalities and municipal governments and other governments.
And then we get back into whether or not the meat industry would lobby against it. You know,
well, that's like a big thing with the with like the fossil fuel industry too, where they're like kind of protecting their huge cash cow.
No pun intended.
They're protecting their huge cash cow, but at the same time, the thing that I always found funny is that it's like they're deliberately ignoring the prospective economic interest in kind of taking advantage of newer technologies that might be more sustainable. You know,
right.
Like there's a lot of money to be made in solar and wind.
Yes, there is. There's tremendous potential.
And why aren't they just kind of shifting their industry over to those and becoming the first to kind of corner the market on those technologies?
I've never understood that. Like, it's a virtually untapped resource of potential. You know, there's so much money to be made. And that's one of the arguments that one of my professors at Algonquin raised whenever we were talking about the climate change issue, is that in order to change the channel on climate change, we should make it a financial thing. We should make it financially attractive for industries to invest and take advantage of renewable energies, rather than harping on about the impact it's having on the planet. Because for some reason, and I don't understand why, people are ignoring that. Right?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Well, like what was the logic behind Doug Ford canceling the whole wind turbine project that was already like half built.
What was the logic behind canceling the tree planting initiative that was already well underway?
Yeah.
Like, there is no logic coming out of that party and that government.
Yeah.
It's simply put, there is
as simple as that, right? Okay.
But like, yeah, I get what you're saying. You know, like the project is almost finished. It's well underway. It's there. Why? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's I don't know.
At least he didn't go as far as Trump did and claim that windmills cause cancer.
Oh, did he say that? Windmills cause cancer? Yeah. Oh my God. What an idiot.
Yeah. So we're a little far afield to veganism at this point.
I guess, yeah.
But yeah, like it.
So you say you've considered veganism, if only.
I haven't considered it as an option, but I've thought about it.
You've like, just thought about it.
I've seriously thought about
what it would mean, or
yeah, I've thought about the moral impact of it. I've thought about the sustainability of it, and the fact that, you know, from a rational perspective, if I care about these things, if I care about morality, if I care about sustainability, if I care about the environment, if I care about animals, it would be a reasonable choice for me to embrace the vegan creed / lifestyle, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I like meat, I like my steaks, and I'm a speciesist. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm lazy. You know?
That's the biggest one, I think.
Yeah.
Actually.
As bad as that sounds, I'm too lazy at this point to make the switch.
Yeah. Laziness is a huge factor that
like, let's be real here.
I'm lazy too. And yeah, I mean yeah. But at the same time, I feel like if I could have some kind of like some kind of incentive, like make a game out of it or something, I'd be willing to take some steps to go more vegetarian, you know,
right?
To do things more veggie.
I tried going vegetarian once.
Okay. And
that was for a girl, so it didn't really go very far. It didn't stick. The reason it didn't stick, and this is a true story, is because of my dad's spaghetti sauce. Because it has a tremendous amount of ground beef in it, and it tastes delicious.
And you could not say no to that while you were with her, and
nope.
She was like, "Oh my God!"
Well, she didn't freak out about it. I don't think I told her, but it was just.
Oh, so that, like, the guilt of having eaten your dad's spaghetti sauce.
No, I couldn't do it because it was so delicious. Like, I can't do this vegetarian thing because of the spaghetti sauce.
So you're saying just that the existence of this spaghetti sauce means that you can't be a vegetarian generally?
Yes.
The fact that this spaghetti sauce is a thing in the universe.
The fact that it's a thing in the universe prevented me from fully throwing myself into the vegetarian thing. It was funny. I couldn't do it. Like, Dad, I was about 2 weeks into trying this vegetarian diet.
Yeah.
And Dad makes spaghetti with his famous sauce. I'm like, well, shit. I tried pushing the beef off to the side for a little while, but eventually I got one in my mouth and I'm like, oh, well, too late now. Just went for it. So, sorry, Amanda. I don't think I ever told you that, but now you know if you're listening to this episode. That was 20 years ago. Oh my God, I'm old.
I mean, I like meat, but at the same time, sometimes we just sort of slip into sort of a wave of where we just happen to be eating foods that have less meat with them or in them. I might go a week where a lot of what I'm having is like soup where the meat element of it is just incidental, or we're eating a lot of salads, or
right, like accidentally vegetarian.
Accidentally vegetarian meals come up,
right?
You know, and for like a meal that just happens to not include meat. when you have it, you're not missing the meat, or I'm not missing the meat.
You don't even notice sometimes, right?
Exactly. So I'm wondering if maybe I could just sort of engineer myself to constantly be accidentally vegetarian.
Purposefully accidentally vegetarian.
Purposefully accidentally vegetarian.
I mean, like, it would be a fun challenge in a way to try and do that. Like, how many days in a row can I go by being accidentally vegetarian?
Well, so me and a friend of mine, a mutual friend of ours that we used to work with, Fred, we had made...
Hi, Fred.
Yeah, we had made a pact at one point where, like, a few of us actually had kind of agreed, okay, who can go the longest having no coffee unless it's fair trade?
Okay.
So I think ultimately the goal was to you got to go a year without ever having any coffee that's not fair trade.
How long did that last?
So for me, I did it.
Nice.
And ever since then, I just happened to only go buy fair trade coffee at the bulk barn, or I discovered Bridgehead at that time.
Okay.
And Bridgehead, I guess, was actually just pretty new at that time too, so it just coincided, and it happened. It was like a nice little synchronicity there. So that just became my coffee place.
This reminds me of the masturbation bet on Seinfeld.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the masturbation bet. And if we failed, we had to give $50 to.
Okay, that's incentive.
Yeah, so it was a pretty good incentive. But that one little, like, fun kind of offhand kind of bet that we made with each other, it actually led to me pretty much only buying and drinking fair trade coffee now. And so, would you be open?
Oh, for God's
to
sake!
doing?
I knew it. I knew that was coming.
Maybe we don't have to go like a whole year, but what do you think about like doing like let's go a month eating vegetarian?
I have meat in my fridge right now, so that's the problem, right? So
is it frozen?
No.
Can you freeze it?
It's on its last leg, so I have to make it like within the next couple of days.
Okay. What about once you exhaust that meat? Can you make like a gentleman's agreement where after that meat is gone, can you go a month without like just making meals that just don't happen not to have meat with them?
I will reluctantly say yes.
Yeah? Yeah? Let's shake on that.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
Oh, it's done.
I'm on it.
Okay.
Okay.
It is official. We are going... Once the meat in my fridge has been exhausted, I will attempt. I shall do my best to go a month on a vegetarian diet.
Okay. I'm into. I'm not sure how much my wife is going to be into this. Oh, you're in?
She's in. She's in,
Holy
ladies and gentlemen.
She's in too. This is going to be so easy.
Okay. All right. So let's establish the ground rules.
Okay.
So vegetarian diet does not necessarily mean a vegan diet. So we can have meat byproducts. Right. So like if we have a gravy on a poutine, doesn't matter if it's beef gravy or whatever.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Cheese is fine because that's it's.
Okay. So we're cheesetarians.
Cheesetarians. So
what about eggs or milk? I mean, if we do cheese, we can do milk. But
I don't
what
really
about
drink,
eggs?
I don't drink milk much to begin with, anyway. So
right, but I put it in my coffee. I put cream in my coffee. So.
Okay. Would you go creamer?
Would I go?
I don't. Why are we talking about? We like whatever. We already agreed on the cheese part, so milk is fine.
Yeah.
Eggs. Again, I have some in my fridge. I usually make omelets on the weekends with cheese in them. So
we're gonna be lacto-ovo vegetarians.
Lacto-ovo vegetarians. I like it. Okay. All right.
Okay. So let's start with that. We'll see. We'll kind of regroup after a month and however much time it takes for you to deplete your current meat stocks.
Sure.
I probably have some meat stocks in my fridge too that need to be depleted.
Oh man, bacon! Fuck!
Yeah, no bacon.
Damn it! Oh, that's gonna suck, man. God.
But apparently, bacon is like cigarettes.
Yeah, it's a carcinogen. I know, but it's so delicious.
But it's so yummy. Oh, what about sour cream and bacon chips? Sour cream and bacon ruffles. That works, right?
I don't think there's any real bacon in this.
We can get our bacon fixed that way.
Are bacon bits real bacon?
No, actually.
Okay,
well,
great.
it depends. Some bacon bits are, but
the crumbly ones that you get in like the shaker package?
Yeah, no, I don't think those are.
Okay, we can get a bacon fix with bacon bits.
With bacon bits. When I was a kid, I used to dip a carrot into bacon bits.
Really?
And that was an awesome snack.
I can safely say I have never done that.
Try it.
Okay, if we're going with the fake ones at this point, sure, for a month. Well, it'll be an interesting challenge. Like the fair trade thing, who knows? It might become a permanent kind of fixture of my diet now. I already have horrible nutrition as it is, so I might die by the end of the month. But.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I think is going to make this worthwhile is just that I just have a horrible diet to begin with. When left to my own devices.
Yeah.
I get fed great stuff, but I don't feed myself very great.
Yeah, not so much. There's a lot of, hopping down to the fry truck.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
Yeah.
We're in a bad working neighborhood for fry trucks, man.
We got a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah. We do. Some of them are really good.
Oh yeah. You got to give me a list.
Oh yeah. I will. Well, now that we have no choice in the matter.
Yeah.
Well, this will be interesting.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes. I don't know if Luke's on board. We should probably issue the challenge to him too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, otherwise, we'll just, chowing down on a burger while we're trying to record an episode after having not eaten meat for a month. That'll suck.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. 1 month from now, we'll see where we stand in terms of whether or not we were able to survive a month without meat. I can't guarantee how long I'll go, but I shall do my best.
So, one thing we haven't settled, are there any stakes for...
Oh, steaks.
That was not intentional. Are there any consequences to sort of failing and giving into temptation halfway through the month?
Can we go public shaming on social media?
Public shaming on social media?
Those signs, I ate meat and it said it, whatever.
Right.
Now I have to get 50,000 likes.
We have to get meme-ified.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Something like that. I don't know. We can discuss that later.
Okay.
What about fish? I don't eat fish to begin with, but like a fish and chip every now and then, I'll sometimes do.
I want to say no. I don't consider. I find that actually really weird.
Yeah.
I find it really weird that fish are not considered animals. What the fuck is up with that? Where did that come from?
I don't know. They have meat on them.
Is that all because of Kurt Cobain, who said it's okay to eat fish because they don't have any feelings?
Probably. I have no data to back that up, but I'm going to say yes. Okay. All right. Public shaming on social media as a consequence. What if... Can we throw in the towel at some point and just surrender?
Well, I mean... I suppose you can surrender to being publicly shamed on
so the consequence,
social media. The consequence is the same.
It just sticks regardless of the reason why you back out of it. Okay,
yeah,
all right.
I'm serious about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'm going to be hacking into your Amazon Echo or whatever to make sure that you're not frying up some bacon.
Damn it. Tomorrow morning will be my last day for a month for bacon in that case, because I have just enough for tomorrow.
Okay.
I have one steak left in the fridge.
This is your last weekend, buddy.
Yep. I have one steak in the fridge and 3 sausages.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, man. I got to adjust my grocery list.
Yeah. Oh,
boy.
I'll try and find some resources online for like a regular sort of meal schedule for somebody who's not eating meat, and I'll share that with you.
Let's keep it going on our Facebook page too.
Okay.
Well, let's anyone who's interested in the ongoing bet can like us on Facebook. and see where we're at. We'll
Yeah.
be posting regular updates and commiserating with each other about how bad this is.
Yeah. At least beer is vegan. I mean, it's at least vegetarian.
Yeah. It's,
I don't know about vegan.
Is it vegan? I don't know. I'm more of a wine person anyway, so it's fruit, so
Yeah.
we're good.
Awesome.
Cool. This will be fun.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
interesting, at the very least. I can't believe I did this, but there you have it.
I can't believe I talked you into it. That's
Ah,
awesome.
It's bound to... Well, the thing is, as Captain Kirk once said, or Admiral Kirk, rather, I don't like to lose.
Oh, okay. So you're throwing down the gauntlet then.
I don't like to lose.
All right. Let's see if we can make it a month.
Let's see if we can go a month. This has been Critical Junction, episode 61, with no final thought. I'm Mark.
I'm Jill.
And Luke is on assignment in Abu Ghraib.
Oh my god! That's a sucky assignment.
As always, thanks for listening, and until next time, keep thinking critically.